We're live.
Are we?
Yes.
Are we? Third time is a charm.
Yep. There we go. Okay.
Okay, beautiful people. You won't believe this one, but we experienced some technical difficulties today.
If you are attending, say hi in the comments so
hi.
that we know that it's actually working.
What are we going to do with this?
Like, this is going to be our most fun episode, I think.
Are we getting philosophical? Are we getting esoteric? What are we getting? Please tell me.
I was actually reading about this recently from a founder. I will put the blog post actually here in the comments. And I thought it was such a fascinating article. Can your agent design its own soul? Because I've been hearing about soul MDs, just a thing that maybe people are talking about. It's buzzy. It sounds really dramatic. It sounds, something that's going to perform well on social media, but I don't know if there's like any merit to it. And then I read up about it and I asked Claude. And I was like, oh shit, I think this is actually the single most impactful thing I could be doing.
When we were doing a skill episode, I was familiar with skills, but like I didn't know how to make them, but I was familiar with the concept and the idea and how can it help me and everything. But do I need to create soul to my Claudia?
Yeah. Well, don't you want her to have a soul? First of all, sick name. Claude, I think we can learn from this in terms of like your maybe other product names. Like soul.md that's a fire name. I'm like, I feel like they wanted some like inherent virality to it. We covered skill MDs in our last LinkedIn Live, which actually puts us in a really good spot here, because skill MDs are basically just an instruction. You're telling Claude what to do. It does not tell Claude who it is or who you are as a person, as a user. So those are two very important distinctions, and you can kind of already tell how they affect different ways of how Claude is interacting with you and how it changes Claude's output based on what you're asking it for. So it's basically shaping your experience using this product. Anthropic created like a Claude.md, which all of us have, but it is like on a product level. They're basically making sure that they control how Claude shows up. And I think a lot of people noticed this, particularly last year, when they were like, oh, I prefer Claude over OpenAI because ChatGPT it has that way of speaking to you that a lot of people like, it's annoying, because it doesn't come across very human. Whereas I find conversations with Claude much more intuitive. This is kind of the difference here, is that Anthropic, they gave Claude a soul. They're impacting the way that it interacts with users. Is there a layer above that we can, as a user, affect how our own Claude speaks to us? So like my account, how my Claude interacts with specifically me based on my preferences. I'm sure all of us, literally on a daily basis, have a very specific thing that we keep yelling at Claude. So for like ChatGPT, it was like, stop using M dashes, and you felt like you had to repeat it literally 200 times a day. Claude already has, oh, that's a beautiful bird. Sorry, we have a birdhouse, so I guess I'm at that age now in my life that I look at birds.
This was such an ADHD moment.
It's just such a beautiful bird. Anyway,
so you were explaining how they actually created a soul, but we can create a soul. They're kind of shaping the soul of Claude, but we can additionally shape it or reshape it. It sounds like a matrix in some moments,
doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm loving it. Probably because of the name. Because I'm like, girl, girl, let's unplug it.
Yeah. Well, let's actually step back. I think that was a really good comment. So when I talk about all of these things at like a very simple level, these are just MD files, which is just a markdown file with text. So that's as complex as it gets. Like we can talk about it as like soul and then Anthropic's personality, or like, but it's just a text file with some instructions. They basically gave it a personality, but it's a written personality, so it's just text.
Not scary at all.
The same way we create skills. So last time we created a skill and now it's saved as a skill.md. Same thing with the soul. So now we're going to be creating a soul that we can then have saved. Claude can then resurface that every single time it speaks to you. So it references it every single time. And that's kind of the important part. And that's how you can avoid some of these things of like, okay, I need you to understand specifically how I work and some of these things that I specifically care about. And then I need you to take that into account every single time you write a message for me. Now, a skill is not going to do that. So, our soul.md of our own Claude, so we're creating our Claudia, it will exist on top of that Claude.md. So think of it as like an out of the box generic model that you are now personalizing to yourself.
It's less scary. I need to admit. I do have few questions though. So first question, same like for the skills. When we create that and we save that, do we need to save that in specific folder? Do we need to add that markdown file to all the projects separately, or it just lives on our computer? And
yeah, you don't need to kind of organize it like some of your context docs, because this is something that it needs to take into account regardless of your chat project. Whenever you use Claude, this needs to be accounted for. So it has to work across your entire system. So you're not organizing it yourself. In the same way that like you don't know where your Claude.md is, you can find it, but you don't really need to know.
second question. I opened my Claudia and figured that I can now see whenever I open Claudia how many tokens I spent, and I hope my chief of revenue doesn't come at me. And it sounds like you've used about as many tokens as the Hobbit. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but okay. But the question is, does it use tokens? I mean, obviously it will use when we create it, but does it create additional spend? Because you said like it will run it every time whenever you ask something, whenever you're chatting with it. Is it going to spend me additional tokens?
That's actually a really good question. So, if you have a model specific to you, that means that you don't have to tell it, don't use M dashes 10 times a day,
Mm-hmm.
which means that like whatever response it gives you, you then have to prompt it again and it has to regenerate a response for you. This
Mm-hmm.
saves the tokens in the long term because it already knows that you don't like M dashes and it already knows how you want to speak to it. It already knows the format that you're comfortable with. So in the long run, it actually saves for you time and prompting, but for Claude, tokens and for your account.
And the last question before we jump in, is it dependent on the models? Because for some tasks, I'm using Sonnet. For other tasks, I'm using Opus.
New Opus today dropped.
Yeah, I was so happy when I saw that. I still didn't have time to test it, but man, like the previous model was so good. I can't wait the weekend to, maybe even tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
To go through it.
Yeah, the
It will be
Anthropic team has
fire.
been busy. I'm like, you guys. I already really like the improvement to the desktop app. I think it looks significantly better. I like the way that I'm using it now a lot better. It's more intuitive. But yeah, just like with any model release, I do notice that it's just kind of a little slow and laggy this morning. I think that's just because we're all jumping to try it now.
Yeah. I will save testing for weekends. Because, sorry, my dog, she's demanding today. um
She's the star of the show. It's okay.
okay, then we can jump in.
I had a head start just because Claude told me that something would take hours and then it took literally minutes. I would like you to get started with this first step that you need to do.
So today's episode will be special, because we're not going to be two girls and one Claude, but we're actually going to be two girls, two Claudes. So we are going to do this simultaneously.
And you can obviously create a soul.md from scratch. Like you can open a doc and start writing. I don't think that's very good, because you already have a bunch of context in your Claude anyway. So just we need to export all of the chats and everything that we've used. So let's do that so that we give it a head start. So if you click on your name, you go to settings, and then you go to privacy and you will see export data.
Yeah, we have a situation.
Oh, what's happening?
So I'm part of the team account,
Oh
and
shoot. Okay, so it's not gonna separate
and
yours.
and I'm not an admin, so I'm not able to export anything. I switched to my personal. It's just
Okay.
it's free, so I don't know if it will be the same.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, settings, account privacy. But this is also one good thing to understand. If you are just an employee, you cannot export anything from the Claude, the Teams Claude, because there is also like when you're doing projects and stuff on Teams account, so you have option to have like private projects that you can see and only person you add to project, and you can have the option to share projects with everyone, like the whole team. So we will see and we will get back to you.
My assumption is that your admin can probably export all of this and you can probably get your individual data. I actually didn't think about this. Like, I'm a business owner, so I only use my Claude, which is basically what I use for both work and personal. So I think mine will have a lot more context than yours. But yeah, once you click export data, you will simply get an email in a few minutes that says your data is ready for download. And it saves it as just a zip file. So conversations, memories, projects, users. Oh, see, users. So maybe it does have like very clearly outlined who the users are. So if you have a company account or something like that, you could still parse through this. And now we're going to go into Claude Code specifically. And we're going to say, so I'm just going to select my company thing and I'm going to upload this to it just so it has access to it. Although you can probably just attach it to the chat as well. But I do think that sometimes it gets confused. So I'm going to give him the exact name of the folder here. And then I have a pre-written prompt. I'm giving him my Claude conversation history. I'm just going to launch this so that it gets started. I'm not sure how long it will take. So you have my entire Claude conversation history. Read through it and surface the top patterns about how I actually work with you. I want to know how I correct you, what my communication style sounds like, what frustrates me, what I consistently reach for, what I value in your responses, and anything you notice about my personality from how I talk to you. Be specific and reference actual moments from the conversations. Also take into account my existing Claude.md when identifying patterns. So I'm telling it to take that into account because there's already stuff that your Claude is learning as you work with it, but it's not resurfacing it and using it in the same way that it will when we create this specific soul.md. And then I just tell it to be specific and not have just like generic observations. It's like, you like it when I'm concise. I'm like, okay, well, everyone likes it when you're concise. That doesn't really impact the work in that way. So the goal for this is that when we have created our soul.md, we have a significantly better experience interacting with our Claude because it already knows what we like and how we like to interact with it, how we like its responses to be, and hopefully it can limit this thing where like I have to repeat myself a lot for very specific things. Because when you create skills, you can stack them, but it does not do the same thing as the soul.md file. I have basically a twofold approach to this that I think is going to work significantly better than just sitting down and writing your soul.md. I don't think most of us have kind of the intuitive knowledge of who exactly we are and how we like to interact. I think we all have an idea of who we are as a person and how we like to communicate. Um, I think it's difficult to just sit down and be like, here's exactly how I want to. Like, it's difficult to sit down and write your own soul.md. I don't think you're going to be really digging into some of these patterns that you might not even recognize, but Claude definitely will because it has so many of my chats. It is just across so many projects. I also have personal stuff here, so it knows me much better than me sitting down and writing a doc.
Did you already try this? How long it usually takes to create, and do you need to iterate with? Oh, here it is.
Yeah. I did not make this before. I thought this would be great to just keep as like, let's do it on an episode, because once you create that one you can keep it updated, but you don't need to be creating like 10 different soul MDs. It says here that it is based on thousands of messages across 7 client projects. It says you escalate from lowercase to all caps when I ignore things you already told me. Like, yeah, I do. Yeah. And you
This is
don't re-explain, you remind me that I knew better. See, this is very salty of me. I'm like, I told you to. So it's like there's no reason for you to be telling that to a fucking machine. That's literally me just being petty. It really called me out there. But yeah, that is correct. I told you to leave my first sentence as is. Yes, I yelled this a lot. Because most of what I do is writing. And I still feel, even in Claude Code, regardless of how good my context docs are, I edit writing a lot. So like I really get in the details. That's just my writing style. I will never take like Claude's first 2-3 attempts. Like we're really digging into that text, and then it often kind of forgets what I'm telling it along the way. So I'm hoping that this will help with the whole writing process.
I'm curious because I know you do audio dictation a lot and that you communicate with Claude a lot. Does it recognize that pattern and everything, and that yelling, is that caps lock, or is it you really like yelling in audio on it? Like
That would be sick. Oh my god. Can you imagine me just yelling at the house in the co-working space?
I'm toxic, but AI toxic, not human toxic.
Yeah, girl, I'm both. Cause so it's not picking up caps lock when I yell at it over transcriber. I use transcriber for most of the things. If it's annoying me, I will turn off my transcriber and I will go into my keyboard just so I can write in caps lock. That's how petty I am about this. Because there are really things that I'm just like, I told you everything. You have everything that you need. You're not performing well.
Okay. I was just curious how well is figuring out emotions and states and everything, but it's essentially just because it's in caps lock.
Yeah. Yeah. And it says that every banned phrase is now in feedback writing style.md. It says, my typing style tells me how you're feeling before your words do. Oh my god, that's so sweet, Claude. Lowercase, no periods, typos you don't fix. Yes, there's a lot of those. Oh my god, it calling out the most frequent typos that I make. That's savage. Elongated vowels. See, this is what's picking up from my transcript. So it's like, no, that's because I'm transcribing. When it's caps lock with a lot of question marks, that means I've broken something. When you write a long paragraph, you're setting up new work. That's actually very true. If I'm like starting a new chat, I'm always turning on the transcriber and I'm essentially trying to give it as much context as I possibly can. Yeah, so it does know me very well. And then it says what actually frustrates you: being lazy work, ignored instructions, low effort. Oh wow, that's this is terrible. That is wow, it's really just airing out all of my dirty laundry. I literally wrote fuck you. I almost embarrassed myself on the call. That is so embarrassing.
I'm so sorry, Claudia. To be honest, I would never want a boss like you. I would leave effective immediately.
But we don't have HR, so you know, it's that is.
You're the old school, you're a boss from the 90s.
It's like you never say thank you. That's what the money is for. I don't just do your job.
Those are 50s though, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's like Mad Men
one.
era.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But yeah, it is picking up on like what I want most of my workflows to do. And I do think this is very specific to the exact kind of work I do across clients. So when we're
Mm-hmm.
building something, I usually want it to make an HTML preview so that we do all of the details there. And then I usually just tell it to make an SVG that I can then use in Figma or other files because an SVG file allows me to move all the elements of like a design or something that we made. Oh my God. It says your non-technical side shows up here. It's like,
Oh my
okay.
God, the audacity.
That is, first of all, rude. So it says, you know the output you want, but not the mechanism. It's like, yeah, that's why I have you. There's no need to call me out like this.
The fucking audacity. Claudia, I had better opinion of you.
And then it also tells me it's like when you're happy, you don't really like show it, which is true. So it's like praise is one word and then immediately followed up by the next task. I'm sorry, but I'm not burning through tokens to be like, thank you so much. And then you having to respond to me before I continue. Um,
That's what subscription is for.
Although I love that I'm telling it sick, make an SVG out of that. So like I think this is more than enough praise so that it understands what I like. So for example, here I said, "Damn, that's a fantastic last sentence. Good job." So that's how I'm trying to like when it actually writes something that's really good, I tell it that so that it understands, and I'm glad that it's like picking up on that. And then it says, "You manage me like a junior employee, not a tool." Well, that's true.
I'm sorry, Claudia.
Yeah. Well, you delegate hard, expect me to drive execution, then audit. Well, yes, that's literally your job. Okay, well, this I knew this was not gonna make me come across great, but I just like to bully my Claude into doing what I needed to do, and it has been working great so far. So hopefully I can just with this repeat myself less. And this is what's important to me. You reject generic
Mhm.
AI voice across every medium. I have so many writing rules in skills and context docs, and it's just not picking up on them. Um,
Why?
well, it is if I prompt it, but I that's my point. I don't want to keep prompting it every few messages to like be taking that into account because for literally every single AI, they default to that generic AI writing so easily, and I'm worried that as people we're getting a little bit too used to it. Like look at this doc that's I believe this is from Anthropic, soul.md, and it starts so beautifully like a meditation on AI identity, and then you immediately go into a text which is just such a generic like AI writing style. Here's the second part where I want this to get even better. You could kind of develop this into a soul MD now, but what I wanted to do, I wanted to interview me next because this is great as a start, but I think once it asks me a few questions, we can dig into some of these um, preferences that it's maybe not even uncovering here. And I think this is a very fascinating thing because if you just started out the chat without any of this context, so without downloading your all of your chats and projects and letting it look through those and surface some of these existing patterns, it would find it very difficult if you prompted it like, well, ask me questions about how I like to work and we can create a soul MD out of that. It's difficult for it to ask questions because it doesn't inherently know who you are. It doesn't know these patterns. Um, so it's going to be difficult for it to ask actually good questions. But I think once it has these patterns now, I think it can start asking me some really good questions. It's the same thing as like when you meet a new person and then you're really just kind of resorted to like, what do you do for work? Like you don't know where to start. So I told it to interview me to design my soul MD. And I said, this isn't a preference survey, it's like a real interview. So your quality bar is that each question should make me pause and think before answering. Like a well researched journalist who read my work before the meeting. So you already have a base, you already have some of my patterns, you already have an understanding of me as a person, no matter how shitty that makes me come across as a manager. But the specificity should warrant like a thoughtful response from me. If I could answer in 5 seconds, the question is too shallow. So ask me one question at a time, wait for my answer before the next. Every question needs to reference a moment or something that you found in my patterns, not like a simple question like, do you want me to be concise? But like, I noticed this in your conversations. What is underneath that? Like, what made you answer that way? Go underneath preferences to relationship identity and what you need from me. Ask about failure modes. Um, what would I lose? What would break our working relationship? Interesting. And then kind of start abstract and let's get more detailed and progressively sharper with each round. So let's go through one of them. You move fast. You approve and retask in the same sentence. Yeah, that's called being efficient. You drop context docs in and expect me to absorb them. It's literally your job. You resume sessions with continue from where you left off. The pace only works if I'm actually present with you. What does present feel like to you when it's working? And when has it broken down in a way that wasn't about the quality of the output, where the work was technically fine, but something else was off? Okay, so
Oh.
yes, so this is a good question. Because I think it is supposed to challenge me and make me actually think, okay, like what parts annoy me and what parts break my process and workflow. Because every time you have to reiterate something or you get confused during the chat of like, I don't know where you're taking into context, but I don't think you're taking into context the right things. I don't really know where we're at. All of that breaks your workflow, and all of that will impact the final result and how good the output is. So for this, I do think I have like a specific thing where I just feel well, I'm immediately like in therapy. I just feel like you don't listen to me.
Yeah, this whole experience is feels like we're on a therapy in combination being in toxic workplace and like talking to HR. So I don't know. We will see how it goes. So what are you going to answer to this?
When has it broken down in a way like so I'm like, well, I don't really know what your memory is like. So like I feel like you lose context docs and your awareness of them during the chat, and I often have to repeat myself for very basic things like you're defaulting to generic AI writing, which is unacceptable for me. Unacceptable! You know the lemon head?
Unacceptable condition!
Yeah.
Sorry, that was like such a millennial reference to make, but it's from Adventure Time.
Now I can go to comments. So Alper said this stream is carrying me through my dissertation right now. Need to get this thing out the way so I can finally play with Claude properly. Alper, let me tell you something. I'm also writing my dissertation, like my not dissertation, I'm writing my master thesis. And I feel your pain, brother. So what's the next step? back to life.
Yeah, it's being a little bit more prosaic than I would appreciate it. I wish the questions were a little bit more actionable, but you know, it's okay. I'm trusting it to take me on this journey. So he says, okay, unacceptable is stronger than wrong, and that is true because whenever I'm writing, I do feel like I often have to kind of fight with it. Is there a version of your own voice you're actively fighting to stay in, where my job is to keep you from slipping? Or when you handwriting off to me, am I supposed to be your voice, not just avoid violating it? This is actually a good question because I'm not only trying to write content for myself, but I'm trying to write content for clients. And I think
Mhm.
this is potentially where my soul.md will be a bit different than someone who's maybe not managing a lot of clients, because if I wasn't managing clients, I would say I have very specific writing style guidelines and examples of my writing that I'm always trying to replicate. You need to
Mhm.
always stay within those. But again, that changes within 10 projects, and each of these 10 projects has 10 different clients that I also have outlined writing style, context docs, all of that, that it then needs to stay within.
Yeah, do you have like skills for every project when it comes to writing and everything?
Yes. So it's pulling when I initially prompt it. because I have a skill for every client and for every like piece of content that I do. So
Mhm.
like LinkedIn posts, blog posts, all of that is a different skill. But again, I just don't work in a way that like whatever Claude gives me, I do minor editing and just ship it off. But then as we're kind of editing, it keeps losing the initial context that it has, which means that I constantly have to kind of keep reminding it of it. And sometimes it remembers, a lot of times it does do a good job, but I can't really rely on it. And that's the problem.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm always trying to stay within the writing style guidelines that I provide for you in every folder of every project. Those are different from me when I write my own content and my clients. And when, yeah, okay. So, and for my clients who have their own distinct voice and writing guidelines. When I hand off writing to you, you're supposed to be the voice. You're not supposed to follow some loose writing guidelines or whatever. Like, you're supposed to truly embody that voice. And we don't have to do this whole thing. I think this is the most fun part and probably the most effective part of this exercise because it's really digging into some of these questions. Like, these are such details that it didn't get to in these patterns because
Mhm.
the way I obviously interact with Claude is that like I am on a time crunch always, and I'm just trying to bully it into giving me the output that I need. I will never stop and be like, okay, so here's why I didn't like that response. And I know that I probably should, and it would probably it would probably improve how the chat goes on, but I
Mhm.
just, you can't convince me that we all have time to do that and stop. This soul.md is the part that's going to help with that instead of you like every single chat being like, so here's what I didn't like about that. Here's where I wish you would have gone. It's like, no, I'm going to yell at you to just immediately do what I need you to do because I have clarity on what I want. But I don't have time to describe like my inner thinking behind that in this moment when I'm trying to like finish up a draft.
Girl, I'm not sure who is going to save you once the machines take over the world. I'm really scared for you.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, you were not very nice to me. Okay, so it says, so I'm not your voice, I'm a library of voices, one per client folder, and the handoff is an impersonation. That's the deepest trust you give me. Okay, don't get weird about it. We can kind of stop here just so we're not, because these do actually require thinking, and I would like to kind of sit down and actually think about it.
Yeah, I love how you said, like, this is so personal. You should do it when you're home alone, and you're here doing it on our, like, private live
It's our
with
private
everyone.
live. It's private and there's nobody here. It's fine.
It's fine.
But yeah, it's
No one is watching.
no one
And
is
then, like,
watching.
it's like, but I love that level of naivety you have, like when you were like, yeah, girl, but no one is watching, and then like I screenshot you like our YouTube channel that has like every episode has like more than 300 people, and it's like, yeah, no one, and around like 300 people per episode, so.
Yeah, that was, I did not even occur to me. And you know what? Ever since then, I really stepped it up with my editing because I was like, I keep yeeting these videos onto YouTube thinking there's 0 views and there's people watching, so I need to do better.
Yeah, 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 and people are
Yeah.
constantly asking for recordings, so.
Yeah, so what I would do now, I think the biggest issue here is that I'm giving it very concise responses. I'm just not giving it a lot to work with. So what I would do now is again, turn my transcriber on and I would kind of think about and explain, when I started yelling, where was I? Like what happened there, that like what did it
Mm-hmm.
exactly forget and what did it lose that I was like, "Oh my god, you're not, you're not taking this into account even though I told you." Um because like it's getting to the point where it's like, hey, I'm an AI and there's certain limitations that you're gonna have to work with. um and I'm at the point where I'm like, yes, but this soul.md file should help me work with them. So I would basically describe like, where does the workflow break, what is usually the thing that it forgets, which can also, it should just pull up from patterns. Like it has all of my chats. So I can always be like, well, look at every single time. And, you already resurface the patterns. And then I would basically explain how does that affect my workflow and what would be my ideal scenario.
What's next? So you're going to give it more context, more like detailed responses, etc., etc. And then what should we do when we finalize with that?
After this interview, after I answered all of it, and you can keep it going as far as you want. Like it technically prepared 5 questions, but you can see that they break out into sub questions. And you can also guide that conversation. So end it when you feel like it has enough information, because you can always update this. So after that, say, based on the patterns you found in my conversation and my answers to your question, write a soul.md. This should capture who you are as a presence when working with me. Your character, not rules. Specific enough that a fresh Claude session loading this file would immediately feel like my Claude, not a generic assistant. Include how you handle different types of interactions with me, when I'm thinking aloud versus when I need execution versus when I want pushback. So you're basically telling it to create the soul.md, which is then he's going to put that where your Claude.md already is, not in like any of the smaller folders that you have like for clients and stuff. So it's going to save that when it needs to, and add one line to your Claude.md, which is, by the way, that beneath layer that's affecting everything else, and this layer is just on top. You can add in your Claude.md, always read and follow soul.md at the start of every session. I highly recommend to do both: the export all of the context that you have from your chats, projects, all of that, and then do the questions. I think that's the single most kind of effective way to actually create your AI agent's soul.
Okay, I will try this.
I will add all of them to the Substack, and then you can just follow our Substack and do your own little exercise for this.
I feel like we're on LLM therapy.
It truly was therapy, especially in a way that wasn't like, when you go to therapy and you're like, oh, this is gonna be great, and then it's just kind of like a conversation of like, here's all the reasons that you suck as a person. That's basically what Claude did to me right now.
Yeah, I love those therapy sessions where I join the call, and because I always do it online, I can I'm the type of introvert that needs to, I need to have the
Yeah,
screen
I don't want
as
to leave
a
my house.
yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling great today. No, I don't have any burning topics. And like 10 minutes into session, I'm like broken and like, what? I don't know like why that keeps happening, but okay.
Yeah. It was the
Um,
same thing today. I thought it was just gonna be a few very like kind of cute questions. It's like, oh, I know this. What would you like me to do when you say this? And instead, it was just like, I see that you have anger issues. So what should we do with those? I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, and if anyone else makes their soul MD or gets any wild fucking questions from it, can you please post it on LinkedIn or post it here in the comments and tag us, because I really am curious to see other people's soul MDs. And if anyone else is yelling at their Claude, can you just please let me know, because I feel like the worst fucking user of Anthropic right now.
Yeah, please drop us comments. We love those. They are our tokens right now, because this is not sponsored. We're open to sponsors though. This is basically like our hobby play. So your comments are lighting our souls. Not MDs, but the real ones, like the human ones. And if you build your soul MD, please share on LinkedIn and tag Two Girls One Claude. We will share. By the way, guys, I love this side project. It really is definition of passive project, passive income. There is still not income, but it's passive because it's working while I'm sleeping.
Yeah, because I'm working.
Yeah, lousy dad jokes because of the time zone. we need to end this live. I won't get any better jokes than this one. Bye everyone, and thank you.